If you're into research and you haven't used co-creation before, I'm here to tell you 2 examples of where I've used it and it's been amazing. I'm Dr. Sally Pizarro, a midwife by background, and there are 2 ways I've used co-creation, specifically the 3 co's framework. This is co-define, co-design, and co-refine. The co-define stage really brings everyone together, everyone you can think of that needs to be involved with working the problem, solving the problem. It brings them together to define A, the problem, and B, what's needed to solve the problem. Here you're thinking stakeholders, end users, facilitators, anyone you need that's going to be involved in the end product of what you're trying to co-create. And with these people, you need to create a shared understanding, flatten the hierarchy, and recognise everyone's expertise in the room. So you establish a shared goal. Clarify everyone's motivations and maybe do some icebreaker activities. You identify needs and resources. What are you going to need to make this happen, whatever it is you're thinking about, and who do you need to do it? Explore the strengths that each person brings to the table and what they can do to help the group achieve the goal. Of course, there's always going to be challenges. Identify those too and how you might overcome them. You need to ensure that there's respect and openness throughout. Everyone has an equal voice and there's confidentiality where needed. Everyone gets acknowledged in the contributions as well. Everybody makes a difference. Once you have these things defined, you go to the co-design stage. This is really where you start to generate ideas as a group. Generate those solutions to your defined problem, or at least potential solutions. Explore possibilities. Nothing is too big or too small. You can use various creative methods to do this. It's really exciting to think about how you can engage people's thinking, where they start drawing or playing or thinking about things in new ways. Then you start to develop prototypes within the parameters of what you can achieve and what you've got and what your defined kind of objectives and materials are. Those prototypes can be built and played around with, and feedback can be given on initial prototypes made. Collective input means you can refine these tools and refine these outputs and really make the prototypes the best they can be. But the last stage is the co-refine stage. So once you've got those prototypes, you go on to stage 3. You start to adapt and improve on the initial prototypes you made. You can start to implement and monitor whatever impacts that prototype is having on the world. You get to evaluate and analyse those prototypes against what you set out to achieve in the first place. Then when you get further feedback, you can refine and refine and refine till you get close to what you need. So I'm going to give you 2 examples now of how we did this in real life. So the first co-creation we did was online because it was during the COVID-19 pandemic, and we really wanted to co-create a framework that would demonstrate or act as a blueprint for how people could do research-inspired teaching in the real world or higher education in particular. Bearing in mind it takes about 17 years on average for research to get through education and into practice, so we wanted to speed up that process. So we got students and educators and everybody with expertise in this field in a room together, a virtual room, to co-create solutions for that. We used digital whiteboards to draw things, draw ideas, and came up with prototypes and definitions that people came together and suggested as their defining moment and designed what they thought a framework would look like. The definitions and the framework were then refined and refined and refined and published in a journal so that everybody could see what we'd co-created and could put into practice what it could do. And that's currently being evaluated to see how that co-created output is being used in the real world and making a difference in the way we wanted it to. The second way I used the 3 Co's framework was to co-create international guidelines on the management of childbearing with hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. This was done with the help of a literature review. So we used the evidence to help us in our quest to define the problem, define how we wanted things to be set out in the guidelines, what needed to be included, what needed to be excluded, what was most important to people. And then we went ahead and designed it together. We co-designed in partnership with people with the condition, with other experts, and with different types of clinicians with all kinds of expertise on the table. Once we co-designed the basic guidelines, we refined and refined and refined again together until we were wholly happy, and we could ask the public how they felt about this as well through PPI activities. That's patient public involvement. We also included that so that we could see whether these guidelines were being translated in the right way, whether they had everything included, whether they served the population they were meant to serve before we refined and refined again based on feedback. These guidelines now are published and we're looking to put them into practice with a digital clinic. coming soon. So these are the exciting ways I've used co-creation in practice, the 3 Co's framework in particular. I would love to learn about how other people have used this framework and co-creation in particular, because there's definitely challenges and opportunities with using this in practice. For example, while I was co-creating clinical guidelines, there was lots of challenging conversations to have between people with lived experience and clinicians who were often butting heads in terms of what was required and what was needed. This was something we had to overcome in building respect and building, everyone having that authority in the room to speak and have their expertise listened to. But it was a challenge. Equally, people often want to create big and bold solutions, but we just don't have the facilities or the materials or methods or funding to do immediately what people want to do. So we have to co-create within our means. And that's where you go back to the co-define stage and define the materials you have in order to do what you need to do and achieve. So key takeaways for this framework are: it's an amazing structured way to promote collaboration. It provides a clear structure where everyone knows where they're going and what they're doing within that structure to be involved meaningfully. And it also allows you to maintain your flexibility and openness in going back and forward between the co-frameworks, if you like, as you need to. There's an emphasis on shared understanding, which I really like, because everybody's opinion is valued and their expertise is equally as valid as anyone else's. It's an iterative process, which I really like, because you can't do things quickly. You do have to go back and forward and respond to feedback until you get to the solution you need. And it really empowers co-creators. They really feel valued and involved in the process, and I value them and everyone values them, because everybody can't do this alone. It needs a team. This also means there's a sense of ownership for people. They own what they've co-created, so they're invested in making it work and hopefully disseminating outputs to other people and including it in their own policies and procedures. I can see this framework being really, really powerful in lots of different scenarios, and I'll be using co-creation in future works that I do. Will you? Let me know. I'd really love to hear your stories of co-creation.